Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I'll be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for this episode. Welcome back to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And I have been having a riot already behind the scenes with our guest today. His name is Steve Multer. He is an industry-leading corporate storyteller, brand representative, executive presence coach, team trainer, and market message strategist for global brands. And the brands he's worked with, people like Cisco, Fujifilm, HP, Siemens, and Panasonic. In the last 25 years, he's developed and delivered more than 20,000 on-stage and on-camera presentations, connecting Fortune brands to over 2.5 million customers, partners, and media. Steve trains global C-suite and ELT teams in winning communications. Steve also has a book, Nothing Gets Sold Until the Story Gets Told, corporate storytelling for career success and value-driven marketing. And oh my goodness, does he have an ample of knowledge and experience around this? I can't wait to bring him on stage so we can talk about that. Please welcome Steve. Oh my goodness.
Wow, that was better than anybody could have ever done it. So bravo. I think we're done, right? I think we can wrap it up right there, okay?
Right?
Well done. Perfect.
Yeah, we're all done. But Steve, really, we already had a riot off stage, right? Like, you are awesome. Your personality is awesome. I can see why people are drawn to you and why you're traveling all over the world and helping so many businesses and corporate companies, right? But let's get to the nitty gritty, right? Not a single business, in fact, has ever been successful overnight. And so there's always been a journey, but people don't see it, they don't hear it. And I'd love for you to share with our audience what that journey looked like for you, and maybe even tell us some of the ups and downs that you went through.
Okay, it's such a great place to start. Great to be with you. Great to be with all of your subscribers here on the podcast. Yeah, I think most companies really are like the duck or the swan, gliding across the top of the water, and underneath the water, all they're doing is just paddling constantly to keep up to speed, to be able to satisfy their client base or their marketplace, and always trying to put across a concept of how beautifully they're doing, how successful, how strong, how powerful they are. But in the background, it's a mountain of work. We know that this is where people are. Everything from entrepreneurial startups, even to massive corporations that are multinationals that might have 80 or 100,000 employees, they're still always struggling every day to build their brand and their business. I'm no different than that. I started out as an actor for many years, actually, all the way until I was 30 years old. I was an actor working on stages across the United States, mostly in regional and some off-Broadway work as well. And what I ended up in was 100% accidental. I would love to say that I was brilliant. I went out, I discovered this, I wanted to do something, and I did it. It actually worked the other way around. It kind of dropped in my lap, but it dropped at a very opportune time. So during the build up to the dot-com boom in the early 1990s, my wife, not my wife at that point, my girlfriend at that point, she started working in what was called corporate theater. And corporate theater was gaining traction on a very rapid level, coming out of a concept called content marketing that had existed before corporate storytelling ever did. And we can talk about that. But she said to me, hey, you should give this thing a shot. And I resisted it. And then finally in about 1996, I did my first corporate theater job. And then I did another one, and I did another one. And I decided that I really liked this. And about 2 years later, I looked at my girlfriend at the time and I said, I'm not an actor anymore. And she said, how do you feel about that? And I said, I actually feel really good about that, which is not a good thing for an actor. Because any actor that is worth their salt, you have to really want it, because it's a very challenging and difficult life. And if you are really passionate about it and you want it, you can't do anything else. It was easy for me to do something else. But the maneuver, the shift from one area to another, was actually very organic and very smooth. I was still on a stage. I was still speaking a script. I was still playing a role, only now I was doing all of that on behalf of large corporations. My first client was a company called Tivoli Systems. They had just been purchased by IBM. And if you remember, for those of you who are as old as I am, back to the late 1990s, where every company was an overnight gazillionaire, they were spending money like it was going out of style, and they couldn't get enough of people to get on stage and speak on their behalf. They just had so many events and so much money to spend. Flash forward now, 25, 28 years later, very different world. But back then it was an easy shift. And it was a very sensible shift. And so what I always tell my kids and what I always tell trainees, people that I work with, is you may not know what your next career path is. Everybody comes out of childhood through university going for a very specific job target. And what I always say is, don't worry about that. Do what you naturally and organically are good at, what you feel passionate about, something that you want to follow. And it's not even a matter of just following your passions. It's what you believe you can do well, and the job will find you. And frequently you don't know what that job is. You don't know the title. You don't know the organization. You may not even know the industry, but it will come up and tap you on the shoulder. And if you leave that window open and you're willing to allow it to access you, and you are willing to access it, you will probably naturally end up where you belong, and you'll end up succeeding. And that business that you started with uncertainty will end up getting stronger, 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 and more solid.
Wow. Okay. So you already given us so many golden nuggets right now. So what you're saying and what I'm getting from you is the journey will actually direct you on the path that you should be on, right? And not to fight it, just go through it, say yes to the opportunities, see what you can learn, because you never know what's going to come out of it. Is that right?
That is so right. So if we think about it, for example, let's say that somebody is on a pre-med track, right, through their undergraduate degree. They're working on pre-med, and all of a sudden they get their first internship, and they have always wanted to be a heart surgeon. They've always wanted to be an oncologist. Whatever it happens to be. And they get an internship, and their internship is in podiatry. And all of a sudden now they're studying feet, because that was the internship that they got. And you know what happens? One of two things. No, I am heading toward being a cardiologist. That's all I want to do. Now that internship gets diminished, because all you're trying to do is get through the internship and gain the experience and get out the other end so you can add it to your resume. The wise pre-med student says, this is fascinating. I never even considered it before, but the opportunity presented itself, dropped itself into my lap. I love the leadership. I love the team that I'm working with. I find this fascinating. Let me not set cardiology aside. It's not about giving up your goals and your targets. It's about opening your mind to the experience that you have in front of you in the moment from a business sense and saying, let's pursue that for a bit. Could this work for me? And you might find that all along you were destined to be a podiatrist and not a cardiologist. It's up to our individual mindset as we approach each business opportunity to stay open to that possibility, to embrace everything that we can out of it, because it may lead you to where you've always belonged. You just never knew it.
Right. I like that, because see, I am someone that kind of is like, let's go with a gut feeling, right? Don't know where this is going to go. Don't know why I'm being put in this direction. Let's see what can be learned. And what I love about it, and I think people forget, is that if you don't like it, you have a choice. You can say no. You can say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like it, right? You don't have to be stuck there, right? And so I believe that anything that happens is a lesson to be learned, right? Whether it's something you don't want to do or you do want to do, right? So that is great advice, Steve. That's awesome.
Absolutely great, Kay. Yeah, I love that too, right? And a lot of times I think people do feel stuck because they have certain responsibilities, right? Let's take it just from a business position. And let's say you're fairly entrepreneurial. You've got a small organization, you've got a number of staff, you're paying for a location, you've got marketing, you've got product to produce, you've got distribution channels that you have to follow and track. And all of a sudden you feel trapped into a certain system that I have to follow that system in order to achieve success. What we know is the most entrepreneurial spirits are the ones who allow the industry to direct them instead of trying to fit themselves into the industry. Listening, learning, watching, building relationships, we've been told this a million times, those are your key to maintaining an open mind. And as you just said a moment ago, flying by the seat of your pants. What's going on in the moment? Good. Let me track that, because odds are that is my best potential path to success.
Definitely. Now, see, that's what I've done. I've got to be honest. I've never had a plan, right? I've been that person when I was younger, when they were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I want to make a lot of money and I want to be a Marvel superhero, right?
Perfect. You've already done both. Congratulations.
And then I was like, oh, wait, there isn't a Marvel university? That isn't real? Oh, crap. Okay, I guess I'm just going to go make money, right?
I love that so much.
And so it was a journey trying to figure out, okay, so I'm going to make money how? Right, we get programmed that we can only make money by sticking to one job, one corporate, right, and then going up the ladder, right? That's what we get programmed to do. And that's not necessarily true, right? A lot of people
Right.
move around, right? You start your own business. I don't even know what a business would look like what kind of business I would have. But it's that journey and trying so many different things to figure it out to get to where you want to get to, right? Wherever that looks like. So I love that. Just trying everything, just putting yourself out there, saying yes to every opportunity that comes your way, because you just never know, right? Never know. And in fact, Steve, I know you did your homework regards to me, and you know that I did events, but did you know I was also an MMA fighter and a police officer?
Wait, what?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
no, I did not know this. I have no idea how those three things fit together. I think we could do another 2-3 hours just on that.
But the point is, it doesn't matter what your background is, what you've been doing, what your experience is, right? Saying yes to whatever you like doing that comes your way will get you to a point where you realize yourself, or you come to realizing yourself that what you want to do, what you want to be when you grow up, because you don't need to have it all planned necessarily, right? And so that is great advice, Steve. All right, so we come to storytelling, right? For corporate, for building the brand. Why did you decide that you wanted to stick with storytelling? Because there's so many different aspects to marketing and building your brand. So what was it about storytelling that really spoke out to you?
So this was natural evolution. When I started doing what I was doing, which was again, like I said, in the mid to late 1990s, I was beginning to evolve into speaking on behalf of large corporations, and that's really all that I did. But a lot of it had to do with observation. So what works, what doesn't work, and what worked at a certain point or for a certain event or a certain audience or even in a certain year was adapting on a very rapid basis. So I was able to see far more, like all of us do in events, far more failures than successes. What was working in terms of corporate communications and brand messaging? What landed with an audience and what just glanced off of them? What did an audience gratefully absorb and maintain that empowered them? And what was just standard pitch marketing that bounced right off, did not stick with them. The audience forgot about it immediately, and the corporation did not see the metric success that they were hoping for based on the failure of the messaging. And as I learned over time and started to add capabilities into what I was doing and the way I was helping out these organizations, I started to realize that what I was most passionate about wasn't speaking on behalf of a brand. It was digging deep underneath the surface of that brand to figure out, what are you truly about? You're speaking as though you're all about product and all about service,
Yeah.
and that you are the best. And you're talking about your awards and your achievements, and you're touting your fiscal dominance or your percentage ownership of a specific marketplace. And I started to realize that what I was most passionate about personally was, how can I help the leaders within that brand get past all of that and figure out what the natural human to human connection is between them and the client that they are hoping to reach? And then why? Why do you want to reach that client? Is it because they represent a contract and they represent a dollar sign for your bottom line and for your shareholders? Because if that's what you're going for, I'm not interested in working with you. I want to find the individual that says, no, I fulfill a specific need and target. And yes, I want to make money and I want to build my own organization and I want to build my brand and I want to take care of my people, but I want to do it by taking care of others. So how can I create that outreach to a marketplace, even when that marketplace is built on money, on an exchange of dollars? How can I create something deeper? How can I paint a beautiful picture of a more successful, brighter future for another human being and invite them to step into the center of that picture? And so what I do today is I go and I find those CMOs, even those CFOs to a certain degree. I try to work with leadership to say, what are you really about? What are you truly trying to accomplish here? Because if it's just dollars and cents and standing in front of the board and maintaining your job, you are not truly supporting your marketplace. So this was my natural evolution into the concept of corporate storytelling and figuring out, how can I help you tell your best possible story? Not the story that just sells, but the story that actually establishes your brand and extends your brand and grows your brand in an organic, natural way that people are excited about, as opposed to just wanting to open their wallets for. That's how I ended up where I am now.
I love that. I love that. Now, I'm curious, right? Because did you ever get in front of a corporate, right, or whoever it was in corporate, and tell them about, storytelling and how that actually works better for the culture, for the business, for the clients, and they turn around and say, "No, we just want to sell. What we don't want to storytell. We don't want to get into all of that. We just want to sell our products and services."
Almost all of them, but I'm going to be honest with you. Those companies rarely hire a guy like me. They're not going to see me speak on a keynote stage or hear me in a training program and say, nah, that's not really what I'm looking for. Typically, by the time I am discovered, it's because all of those other areas of I'm not interested in telling a story, I just want to sell things, either haven't worked or they've stagnated or they are hemorrhaging staff out of the organization and having to hire on a constant basis because the employees of that company don't feel the passion of the organization they're working for and they want to go find something they are passionate about, or the customers themselves are on a massive attrition rate where they're saying, fine, I'm going to buy from you this time, but I'm buying from your competitor the next time and from their competitor the time after that. Establishing long-term relationships goes in every direction. And of course, as we know, the fish swims or stinks from the head down. So great executive leadership not only knows how to get a product moving across the market, they also know how to empower those who are working for them and alongside them, how to get them excited through the story of the brand itself so that they believe in something more deeply than just the bottom line, and how to get the customer to feel the same way. This is a very, very difficult lightning in a bottle to catch. This is an X factor that the most successful brands in the world have managed to achieve, but that most brands end up chasing for a certain period of time before they either adapt, die, or get absorbed into another brand.
I love that. I love that. Now, I want to take a couple of steps back because you mentioned something, and I'm not too sure if people caught it. I did. You mentioned by time they hear about you, right? They've heard you, they've seen you on stage, they know a little bit of your background. And as a business owner yourself, that's super important because I think people feel like they can start a business, they go out there, and then just maybe get on the phone, meet people, and just sell them. But they need to have heard from you, have spoken to you, or seen something about you before they make that buying decision. So, how did you yourself, as a business owner, work out that this is what needed to be done in order for clients to come chasing you down rather than you chasing them?
Okay, such a good question. And you actually guided me back to you. So, one of my favorite episodes that you've done of your podcast was with Brendan Kumrasamy. And Brendan's amazing. I've actually watched his work for some time. And he said something great when you asked him a very similar question. He said that he doesn't want to walk into a room or walk up in front of a client and try to sell himself to that particular client. Instead, what he does is invite them to view work that's already out there and available. It's about visibility for him. He just says, great, go check out what I've already done. Go check out what I'm about. Ask around. You'll come to me. It's going to happen naturally. Yeah. This is what I recommend really to every business owner. And again, whether you're a one-man entrepreneur or you are a small team or you're a large part of a larger team, visibility becomes everything. Reaching out, extending yourself to people and making yourself available and visible to them is vitally, vitally important to success. It is so much harder to get excited about someone, to want to work with them, if you can't discover the work that they've already done and you don't understand what they're really about and what they're trying to accomplish. Because as we know, audiences, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of 50,000 that you're speaking with or that you're trying to market to, they are in a whiffum state of mind. Everything is what's in it for me. Meaning they don't care about what you've done in the past. They don't care about your awards, your accolades, your experience, how much money you make, how big your organization is, how many employees you have. What they care about is themselves. What can you do for me right now? How can you support and service and empower me to achieve my goals? When that becomes obvious, which is only through visibility, the door naturally opens. When you have to force and pry that door open, typically it's because they're looking at you and saying, I don't know where you fit into my world. I don't know what kind of support or service you offer to me. I can't discover it. It's too hard. What I see is a list of branding and marketing and metrics and data points and analysis, and none of those are going to reach me on a human-to-human level. Make yourself available and make it obvious the benefit that you bring to me. I will pursue you. And I think that's a great bit of advice really for anybody who is working on business at any level and in any industry.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Now, going back to storytelling, okay, now there's an art to this, right? Not everyone can do it, right? And I think the best way that I've kind of looked at it is you got to watch comedians, right? Watching them stand up and they're constantly storytelling and they loop it around. It all makes sense. It's really funny, right? Because when you're also speaking, you got to make sure you got humor. Right? It's not just about being militant and giving content. You've got to be able to connect with the audience, right? Hence why you do the storytelling. And so tell me how, if someone is getting on stage, right? Whether it's a podcast, it's a live stage, or if it's in a meeting, what are some of the things that they should, or how should they incorporate storytelling into their talk? And what are the foundations of learning how to do this the right way?
Oh, such a fantastic question. All right, so I'm going to answer it in a couple of parts there, and I'm going to deal with the humor first.
Okay.
Humor terrifies people because they've heard for so long, get on stage, tell a joke, say something funny. Everybody loves somebody who's funny. And it's true, but here's the problem. The vast majority of us are not funny naturally. We either have to force it or we have to have somebody write something for us that is genuinely funny. And so what humor tends to do is it becomes an obstacle to success because people will say, I'm not a funny guy. And if I can't make my audience laugh, I'm not going to have a successful presentation, or I won't reach them on the level that I want to reach them, or I will meet with my team and they're going to look at me and not really get it because I'm not funny. Humor is not necessarily the prime target. If you can get it into your talk, fantastic, because it is an enormously successful method of communication and making things land. But what I always stress is worry less about being funny, worry more about being honest and about speaking to the room. And again, this is whether it's one colleague or a room full of 400 people at a conference. Speak to them as though they are colleagues and friends that you care about and that you are simply there to help and support. That will naturally guide you to your story. So then comes part two. What makes something into a story? So Yuri Hasson runs the Hasson Laboratory at Princeton University. And if you've never seen Yuri Hasson's TED Talk, 2016 TED Talk, it's a fantastic talk. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It's called This Is Your Brain on Communication. Huh. And what's so great about what Hasson does is he talks about a concept called brain coupling. The idea is long before you ever meet anybody else, long before you and I ever met, we already have certain things in common. And what I can do walking into the situation to communicate with you is try to discover what do we have in common with one another. The best way we do that is we tell stories to one another. We don't immediately go to the pitch. We don't talk about ourselves and how wonderful we are and how great our brand is and what it is that we're selling or marketing. We start to speak with each other and find out what do we share. Because everybody has a human experience and there are certain things that we know we all share. Right? We all get up in the morning and put our pants on one leg at a time. We all sleep. We all eat. We all try to find love or relationships. We want to be happy in our jobs. We like to travel. We love good food. We tend to love our home cities and have certain places that we like to go to and things that we like to experience that are simultaneous. You and I, you and your entire audience, even if that audience is 10,000 people sitting in front of you. Play to the story. So talk about immediacy, talk about the room that we're in together at the moment, talk about something current that is taking place. Try not to be controversial, but try to make it of the moment and in the moment. Try to come up with methodologies within your storytelling that connect you on a human-to-human personal level first before you immediately play to the business level. Because if you can establish that human trust and credibility at the outset, in the initial moments of communication, your audience then opens up more to the core message that you are there to deliver. If then you can achieve natural humor through that storytelling, through those connection points, you and I were laughing earlier about things like Indian food over in Brick Lane and why people are going to Manchester instead of to London, right? This isn't based in joke telling or in comedy. It's based on our shared experiences and knowledge of something that we can connect on personally and in a human way before we get to the podcast and actually start to talk business. So these are ways that you can begin to bring corporate storytelling into your brand marketing. Look for the story first, which is human to human, then let your corporate story, your company story come second and naturally out of that initial communication.
Okay, all right. So what I'm hearing here is that you need to find that personal connection first, right, with the company or individuals, right, before you even go into business and telling them about the business, stories about the business. It needs to be a personal connection first. Once you've cracked that, then it opens the door to let's actually talk about business now.
Yes. And the second part of that is to always keep the focus on your listener. So we use the word audience. And again, audience can be an audience of one. Right now I'm speaking and you're listening. A moment ago, you were speaking and I was listening and I was your audience. An audience can be one person on your team. An audience can be a room full of people. If I am a team leader, I've got 20 people working underneath me as a director, and I need to shift the direction of the team, or I need to bring them some bad news, or I need to get them operating on a new level that helps deliver for my ELT. I've got a job to do. I am speaking to my audience and I know all of them and they all know me. So it's not necessarily just a matter of finding something personal that we can connect on before I get the business. We already know one another. We see each other and speak to each other every day. Instead, what I want to do is keep the focus entirely on them. Always make them the rock star. They are the superstar of every successful engagement or interaction. And again, this is whether you're speaking to your boss, whether you're speaking to a team of 5 people that you work with every day, or whether you're speaking to a room of 1,000 strangers. They are the target of your communication and of your content. How can I empower you? How can I make you more successful? What can I do to get you to your goals, to get you to the outcomes that are going to get you excited and make you want to perform? If you're an entrepreneur or the leader of a small business, this is especially important. You've got 12 employees, and your goal for growth and for proper scaling within your market is to make sure that those 12 people are always fully on board with you and by your side by empowering them every single day with whatever your market or message communication happens to be. And again, it's the same with a small company as it is with a massive multinational global brand. The more you can get your people on the same page, working together based in storytelling communication, the more of a consistent story you'll tell to your marketplace, and the more you'll empower them to reach their individual goals. It's not about you. It's not about the brand. It's always about them.
I love that. Oh my goodness. And you mentioned so much stuff there already, right? Now, one of the things that you said is you got to make sure that you have your team that are on your side, right? They understand the brand, they understand the story, there's a bigger picture. How do you get your entire team on board, right? Because I guess the way you speak to potential clients, the way you speak to C-suite, the way you speak to your team is all different, right? Yeah, they're your audience, but it's completely different. And so what's the best way of making sure that you're building a business and getting your team on the same platform as you?
Such a great question. By the way, maybe the single hardest thing to do. You may have literally tagged why so many companies have such massive attrition rates with their employees. Yeah. Is that the employees don't see the big picture. They don't know what they're doing in the room. To them, it's just about sales and bottom lines. That's it. Everything goes. Either the company is successful and we're making money, or the company is not. Either you feel vital or you feel redundant. Empowering your people, getting them all on the same page, has to do with the vision of the leadership. So let's go back now to the people who hire me, right? How does a Steve Multer or somebody like me get into the room? How does HR hire me to train their global sales team to tell a more potent and powerful story and all be on the same page with one another? Typically what happens is it's a point of transition. A new CMO arrives at the organization and they look around and they say, we've been stagnant, or we're not growing in the way that we want to be growing, or we've drifted too far from the core message that started the organization, the reason that we were initially passionate about filling a certain gap in the marketplace. We don't know what it is anymore. We've lost the thread of the conversation with our market. So what do we do? How do we get back to our core story? Well, you don't really need a guy like me to do that. The right leader is going to walk in the door and know exactly how to do that. Hopefully, it's the reason they were hired in the first place. But the idea is break down the barriers to communication. So if we go in a pyramid structure of an organization, and you've got your ELT up at the top and you've got your worker bees basically at the bottom of that pyramid, there are so many levels of separation between the core of the company and the executive leadership that there's no way for that message to pass through. One of my favorite people that I ever worked with was John Chambers, back when he was chairman and CEO for Cisco for 20 years. John was the ultimate in making his entire organization feel heard and connected to on every level. John was a man of pretty fair wealth. Let's just put it that way. He was extremely powerful as one of the greatest futurists in the technology industry, and he drove his Nissan Maxima to work at the campus on Tasman Drive in San Jose every day. He did not park in the chairman and CEO parking space. He parked at the back of the parking lot, and he would walk across the parking lot with anybody else who was coming out of their own Nissan Maximas at the time, and they would simply walk in the door together. He always had a Diet Coke in his right hand wherever he went. He was followed by an entourage of people, of course, like all leaders of massive corporations are. He would break away from that entourage at every opportunity to talk to anybody he possibly could. And everybody said, "Oh, isn't he a nice guy?" As somebody who would work with him on a frequent basis, I said, yes, he happens to be an incredibly nice guy. He's a Southern boy. He's a Carolina boy. But this was a genuine way for him to break down the barriers and make sure that everybody in his organization felt a part of the core message. The core message came from him, but everybody felt on board with that at the time. That is such a key to anybody in a leadership position over their organization, whether your organization is 3 people or whether it's 300,000 people. Doesn't matter, same thing. When people understand what the mission, the goal, the story of the brand is, and they have to get that from leadership, not just from their boss. There are too many levels above their boss.
Right.
Figure out what the leadership wants to do. And if you align with that leadership, you will always feel a part of your own corporate story. And if you don't understand it or don't align with it, odds are you're already sending out your resume to look for another job. And leaders, keep this in mind. If your people do not understand your vision or the story that you're trying to achieve, they are already looking for their next position today.
Wow, that was powerful. Oh my goodness, Steve. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. Like, I feel like I can speak to you all day long.
All right, let's do that. What the heck? We don't have other things to do.
But I know at this point people are thinking, oh my goodness, I need to get hold of Steve. I need his help. So how can they go ahead and connect with you?
Well, thank you for asking that. So I'm pretty easy to find. You can see it here in the branding. Find me at stevemulter.com or corporatestorytelling.com. Both are going to get you exactly where you want to be. Kay, you mentioned the new book, which is great. Nothing gets sold until the story gets told. Corporate storytelling for value, passion, and connection, the 3 things that I really believe in so deeply. The last thing that I'll mention, though, is I've got something that anybody can get hold of. Ooh. I've got a free e-guide that I created. It's a very cool PDF called 5 Paths to Passionate Storytelling. No matter where you are in your corporate storytelling and how often you get to speak in public, I urge everybody to go download this. It's a free thing. Go to corporatestorytelling.com/guide. Super easy to get to. And then put in this code, all lowercase, all one word, sold told 23. If you put that in, you can go download the guide, and this will give anybody at any level in their career, any education, socioeconomic status, whatever your specialty is, 5 ways that you can right away start adding more passion to your brand storytelling, whether it's within your organization or standing on stages at events or conferences. This will help get you where you need to be, or at least on the path.
Amazing. Thank you for the gift. Oh my goodness, we love gifts on this show. So thank you for offering that. Guys, if you need help, if you feel like you need to be speaking to Steve, you want to get some advice, need guidance, you know that you're stuck, go ahead and connect with him, right? I urge you to do so, because he will be able to move your business so much more further than you trying to figure it out yourself. So go ahead and connect with him. Steve, thank you so much for coming to the show. It was amazing having you on.
Okay, what a pleasure. Thank you again to all of your listeners. Appreciate it. And I look forward to sharing some good food with you very, very soon in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it too. Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.